to the InfoWars Nightly News. It is Thursday, August 22nd, 2013, and I'm your host, Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, was the chemical weapons attack in Syria a setup and a surprise twist in the Bradley Manning trial, or should I say Chelsea Manning? Then, Jakari Jackson sits down with Cale Sampson, info rapper battling the New World Order. All this and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Tonight's top story. Experts are questioning the validity of that footage of the chemical weapons attack victims in Syria.
There are, within some of the videos, examples which seem a little hyper-real and almost as if they've been set up, which is not to say that they are fake, but it does cause some concern. Some of the people with foaming, the foam seems to be too white, too pure, and not consistent with the sort of internal injury you might expect to see, which you'd expect to be bloodier or yellower.
His suspicions are shared by a Swedish diplomat and former UN weapons inspector who said it would be very peculiar if it was the government to do this at the exact moment the international inspectors come into the country. At the least, it wouldn't be very clever. A chemical weapons expert who is leading the current UN inspection in Syria said that the high number of those killed and wounded sounded suspicious. But was the chemical weapons attack a provocation planned in advance? Earlier this year, we reported on a supposedly hacked email from a defense contractor exposing a plan that was approved by Washington. They planned to stage a chemical weapons attack in Syria and then blame it on Assad. The allegations spring from a series of online posts by a blogger purporting to reveal that the company had been offered large amounts of money to recruit Russian-speaking mercenaries who could detonate a chemical weapon inside Syria. The post also suggests that such a plot would have the approval of the USA. It was later claimed that the email was a hoax perpetuated by the Syrian Electronic Army. Another curious timing issue with the chemical weapons attack was that it occurred precisely 1 year after Obama's Red Line remarks. And even Russia is voicing skepticism, saying a flood of reports issued by biased regional media about alleged chemical weapons use might be a provocation planned in advance. It draws attention to the fact that biased regional media have immediately, as if on command, begun an aggressive information attack, laying all the responsibility on the government. Now, I don't know who to believe is responsible for this attack, but one thing I can say is that video is not a hoax. I have personally seen a dead body before, and those people are dead. I know that when you die, the blood pools, and you can see it right there in the video, several of the bodies where the blood has started to pool, not to mention the fact you could not get a toddler or many toddlers to play dead for that long. That video is really disturbing, and it's very sad, and I don't think it's a hoax. We just don't know who actually released the gases. But nevertheless, this attack has Twitter blowing up. People are fighting amongst themselves who did it, to whom, and why. What I want to know is, was that chemical weapons email real? Where's Guccifer? We need Guccifer to release some more emails. Is it Guccifer, like Lucifer, or is it Guccifer with the two C's? Okay, well I'm gonna go with the Illuminati angle and call him Guccifer. So Guccifer, email me if I'm not pronouncing your name right. I want to be on your email list anyway. That actually brings me to the daily quote. This little thing called the internet and the ability of people everywhere to communicate instantaneously and to have more information coming at them in one day than most people can process in months or a year, it makes it much harder to govern. Yes, indeedy it is, John Kerry, and we are counting on it. We're counting on the internet to help us wake up the rest of the sleeping giant to remind them that the government is for the people, by the people.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
The coroner's statement on Michael Hastings' death has been released, and the official cause is auto versus fixed object, or tree. The cliche of cars bursting into flames in a collision is a Hollywood myth. Under what condition will a car crash and burn? The key to a car explosion is a bursting fuel tank. The LAPD claims that the car exploded on a frontal impact without bursting the gas tank. To put it mildly, that is highly improbable. It appears from surveillance footage that there were multiple explosions very close to each other, which would match the initial eyewitness account. In a breaking story today, LA Weekly reports that Joanna Thigpen, a friend and neighbor of Michael Hastings, he came to believe his Mercedes was being tampered with. Nothing I could say could console him, said Thigpen. One night in June, he came to her apartment after midnight and urgently asked her to borrow her Volvo. He said he was afraid to drive his own car. She declined, telling him her car was having mechanical problems. She said he was scared and he wanted to leave town. It isn't just that bombs can be planted on cars. Speed, steering, and virtually every aspect of a modern car is under software control, and software can be hacked. You can do some really highly destructive things now through hacking a car. And who would be likely to hack a car or to do a cyber attack? As Aaron Schwartz pointed out,
they are funding the creation of vulnerabilities. They are offering rewards for people to find and build vulnerabilities into the system and give it to the U.S. government, so then the U.S. government can launch cyber attacks.
The physical evidence hasn't supported the government's story from day one. The government had the motive, the means, and the method to kill by either car bomb or by cyber attack. But don't expect the government to investigate itself. See the full special report at Prison Planet TV or the Alex Jones channel on YouTube.
The big twist in the Bradley Manning trial. Bradley Manning reveals that he plans to live his life as a woman and he wants to begin hormone therapy as soon as possible. I am Chelsea Manning. I am female, the Army private wrote in a bombshell letter one day after his sentence to 35 years in prison. Given the way that I feel and have felt since childhood, I want to begin hormone therapy as soon as possible. I hope that you will support me in this transition. I also request that starting today, you refer to me by my new name and use the feminine pronoun. The letter signed Chelsea E. Manning included a previously leaked photo of him donning a blonde wig, lipstick, and eyeshadow in 2010. Now, transgender prisoners in the U.S. who have not had genital surgery are usually assigned to live with inmates who share their sex at birth. A Fort Leavenworth spokesperson told the news agency that treatment for transgender inmates does not extend beyond psychiatric care at the all-male prison. The Army does not provide hormone therapy or sex reassignment surgery for gender identity disorder. Now, I personally respect a person's decision with regards to their gender identification. I don't think that we should be attacking individual people when the conspiracy goes so much higher up the chain. That's why they're spiking all of our food with hormones and killing us with GMOs and stuff, because they know that it is affecting everyone. They're basically restructuring our DNA and changing us all to be really kind of submissive. So we shouldn't be attacking Chelsea Manning. But what I am curious is, if Manning's revelation is going to cause Obama, who is, always trying to buddy up to the LGBT community, if Manning's revelations will finally cause him to call Manning brave and a hero for revealing her secrets. And there's another trial highlighting government lies and corruption. The Department of Justice asks the court to grant immunity to George W. Bush for the Iraq War. In court papers filed this week, the U.S. DOJ requested that George W. Bush, Richard Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, and Paul Wolfowitz be granted procedural immunity in a case alleging that they planned and waged the Iraq War in violation of international law. The lawsuit alleges that they began planning the Iraq War in 1998 through their involvement with a nonprofit that advocated for the military overthrow of Saddam Hussein. Once they came to power, the suit alleges they convinced other Bush officials to invade Iraq by using 9/11 as an excuse to mislead and scare the American public into supporting a war. And finally, the U.S. failed to obtain UN approval prior to the invasion, rendering the invasion illegal and an act of impermissible aggression. Well, that sounds legit, but the DOJ claims that in planning and waging the Iraq War, ex-President Bush and key members of his administration were acting within the legitimate scope of their employment, and thus immune from suit. Well, apparently it's the Westfall Act certification that permits the Attorney General at his or her discretion to substitute the United States as the defendant and essentially grant absolute immunity to government employees for actions taken within the scope of their employment. Granting the Bush administration immunity from war crimes would be a crime in itself, but unless the American people get up off their butts and demand a trial, they might not even ever need to request immunity. To watch even more politically charged movies, become a member of Prison Planet TV. Your subscription will allow you to get access to all the movies, the documentaries, the rants, and your subscription can be shared with up to 10 other people. Support this transmission and sign up today. Now stick around because coming up, Geor Jackson is going to be interviewing Geor Sampson. His raps will deliver a New World Order message to the masses. We'll be right back.
Manning trial, or should I say Chelsea Manning. Then, Geor Jackson sits down with Geor Sampson, info rapper battling the New World Order. All this and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Tonight's top story. Experts are
People with foaming, the foam seems to be too white, too pure, and not consistent with the sort of internal injury you might expect to see, which you'd expect to be bloodier or yellower.
His suspicions are shared by a Swedish diplomat and former UN weapons inspector who said it would be very peculiar if it was the government to do this at... Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. It is Thursday, August 22nd, 2013, and I'm your host, Leanne McAdoo. Here's what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, was the chemical weapons attack in Syria a setup and a surprise twist in the
questioning the validity of that footage of the chemical weapons attack victims in Syria?
There are, within some of the videos, examples which seem a little hyper-real and almost as if they've been set up, which is not to say that they are fake, but it does cause some concern. Some of the